Dino, thank you for coming on the podcast, bro. About time.
An honor to be with, of course.
What a joy.
Such
You
a
two
joy.
are amazing people.
And live and in Jay's.
You got when you're old, you just work them
It
J's,
is,
man.
bro.
You just
You
go with
do.
the J's.
I like it. I like the hoodie. I like the vibe. Yeah, man.
I'm in Montana. Why
Yeah.
not? Let's go.
It's amazing. We are so excited to just have a conversation, just talk all the things. So much going on in your life right now. So much going on at Church of the Highlands and the Ark, and just amazing. So
Well, I'm thankful. We love the Luskos,
yeah,
all of them. We love all of them,
them.
and what you guys have been about, what your heart is about. You see it in everything you do. Of course, the team and just being here in this experience, but then everything that kind of flows out of this, you just sense Jesus. You just sense people. You sense care. I got up this morning and thought about the word. How much you guys care about people is beyond. And I think it's so needed. And I'm grateful you have such a wide-ranging voice to so many different types of people, so many places. I think you're a great gift to the body of Christ. Both of you are. And I want to say that before we got into it.
That's
Thank you.
super kind. And we
So
feel the same way.
kind,
Like
yeah.
every interaction with you along the way, your spirit, kindness, you're always just so generous. We love Livy getting to bump into you out in Alabama, and just she's always like, Pastor Dino is just so kind, bumping into me in the halls, and just every time we've been around you, we've left the experience better.
Yeah, and I just think of your capacity. Like we were just talking about how you are connected with so many churches and different pastors texting you, and I was just thinking like your capacity is so wide and far, and just how God's using you to encourage churches all over the world and build up and raise up leadership. And it's just like, it's overwhelming to think about, but it's just so cool to see how God's given you that capacity to love and care for people.
Yeah. Well, thank God for people that have done that in my life.
Yeah.
So you're just trying to, pay it back, pay it forward, earn what you've been blessed with as it relates to what other people have done. And I've received a lot of grace. I've been on the other end of a lot of compassion and a lot of mercy. I've worked for some people that have been very merciful to me, as I learned in the early years and continue to this day. So you're just trying to reflect that and model how many. We've all had spiritual giants, friends, fathers in our life that have been very good to us. We stand on their shoulders,
Yeah.
whether we knew them or we didn't.
Yeah.
This year, at the beginning of the year, I felt led to read some of the old missionary books and some of those older missionaries that were at the turn of the century, and just reading about Victor Plymire in Tibet, reading about C.T. Studd, reading about, the Buntains in India. Of course, we're friends of their extended family now, but you just read those stories of people that went on the mission field, and they were some of the first ones to present Christ, and were some of the ones who, Victor Plymire was in Tibet 16 years before he had one convert.
Wow.
16 years for his first baptism, and walked across those mountains and, those passes, and went into those communities. And I just think, man, now those are the people that really are the ones that I want to learn from. I want to be that kind of person, hopefully, for the next generation. So grateful to be a part, grateful to be in the kingdom.
Wow. I think about one of the first times we were hanging out together, you were showing us through the Dream Center in Birmingham. That's a fire station.
Yeah.
And just the work you guys do in cities, you've always led that way, like in church, in life, in community. Just talk us through some of like what the work going on specifically out of those kind of dream centers. The amount of people you're caring for, loving, just unbelievable.
Well, thank God for generous churches.
Yeah.
And we tried to be that in Baton Rouge, a healing place. They continue to be that. And then being a part of Church of the Highlands now, Pastor Chris Hodges and now Pastor Mark Pettis. Generous people that just want to make a difference.
Yeah.
Want to try to help people for the cause of Christ. And so, and so much of that Dream Center model, the play that we run, of course, came out of the heart of Pastor Tommy, Luke, Matt, their families, what they've done across Phoenix, across LA.
Yeah.
And then that's extended. I think there's, thousands of expressions that have some Dream Center expression, whether it's a food pantry, whether it's connecting with a partner who works with the vulnerable, whether it's, going into a school where there's reduced opportunities into a school, or being there for widows, or being there for single moms. And so I think all of those expressions, and we try to do that there in Birmingham through the location, but then also through each campus, some type of expression, whether we are giving out groceries or we are being there for families that have had a tragedy in their life. We just hosted a funeral for a family that did not have the ability to be able to bury their family member. We came alongside and, gave them the best we could as a church. And again, so much of that comes right out of the heart of our pastors, just like you guys. I mean, I looked at all the outreach that you're doing at all of your locations. And it involves, hey, let's get food to people. Let's get encouragement to people. Let's help people that are trying to figure out sobriety. Let's be there for people that are dealing with addiction. Let's help those that maybe they don't have an opportunity like we do in their family or with their children. So I just think that's what it's all about. I think that's the hands and feet of Jesus.
Yeah.
And I love what Joyce Meyer said. I heard her say this one time. She says she just gets up in the morning and believes that there's one person to help for the cause of Christ.
Wow.
And I need to find that person today to do that too.
I love that.
And to experience Christ with them. So you're trying to do that at a large scale, but then you're trying to do that for the one.
Yeah. And then last time we were together, you were talking about right now your big heartbeat is to get into more juvenile detention centers.
Yeah.
Which is really exciting. I think you guys are in so many prisons. But you were saying like it's the juvenile detention centers right now that's like lighting you up, firing you up.
Oh, so fired up.
Yeah.
I could run around the studio right now. There's not a lot of room, but I would run around this small circle.
Am I wrong that you guys hit the milestone of being in every prison in Alabama already? That's done.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the county detentions too?
Yeah. Some of the jails.
But not the juvie. That's the newer ground.
It's a different dynamic when you're working with juvenile correctional facilities. And, we do these serve days. And so, it's just days where it's an all call. And of course, we wanted to be every day. We wanted to be organized. I think a church could do organized outreach, but then you want to be organic because you want to empower your people to say, hey, make it. So we were doing a serve day, and I think we got an opportunity to go to one of the correctional facilities that are juvenile focused that had not had a lot of TLC. And so we were able to go there, create an experience for those residents, and it just kind of sparked in us. So I think there's probably 21, 24 juvenile detention things, expressions built. They're all different in Alabama. I think there's 1,500 juvenile residents that are in some type of secured.
Would they be sentenced or would they be awaiting trial or some combination?
Okay, it's a little both. And then a lot of them are, there's a lot of, they've gone through a lot of pain.
So
they've been through a lot of trauma.
For can they be? What would be the longest sentence someone would be sentenced to a juvenile?
Well, if they've been a violent offender, they could be there into their adult. Sometimes they transition into a regular situation, or that sentence is up. So we just made a decision. What would it look like if we came alongside of these centers and served them and asked what their needs were? So we're in the process of doing that, and I think we've been able to do that to about 7 or 8 of those. And we went to go have Easter services recently at one of the facilities, and we couldn't get in that day because there was something going on with the location. So they said, "Can you come back in a few days and do Easter?" I was like, "Hey, Easter's every day. We'll do Easter service on Thursday."
Come on.
Several weeks later. Yeah. But you're always going in there with some type of a hygiene pack, some type of art equipment so they could do art, writing, journals, things that are just, when you don't have soap and you don't have some highlighters and you don't have color markers, which all of us have those in drawers at our house. When you don't have it, it's a big deal to bring it.
Yeah.
And then you get to, communicate Christ.
What were you telling me about slippers? You said that was a big ticket.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna reach the world through slippers.
Love it.
And these, they don't have slippers, so you bring them in, nicer ones that are a little bit more, that last longer than what's been provided for them. And sometimes that makes a huge difference. I've always felt, and I know you guys live this, it's the small things.
Yeah.
And we always
So
think,
true.
I can't make a big difference. I can't help everybody in my city, but what did Mother Teresa say? You can help somebody. So start with somebody.
Yeah.
And that's one of those, it's the small moments that we do.
And you're thinking about concrete cell. I mean, what a logistically specific thing that's going to enhance life in a concrete room. Like not having to be barefoot or wearing your shoes, but to have slippers. I mean, that's...
Or we're using the ones that's been provided. Yeah. And the state has a lot to do. Our states have a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
So I'm always I'm trying to be the positive person, and I think every church every college group. There's a lot we could do for those that are incarcerated. Jesus did not mention a lot of specific people that we were to go out to. He mentioned those that were incarcerated, those that are in prison. He specifically said that.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes we're looking for all these ways to do outreach, to grow our church, and it's like, let's start with the list he gave.
Wow.
So good.
And that's a good place for, if I'm a pastor, if I'm starting a church today, I'm going to write down the few things that he did say. The widow, the prisoner, the hungry, those that don't have clothes.
Yeah.
I'm going to probably start there. And you probably would have a lot to do.
It's like,
honestly,
nothing wrong with getting a helicopter full of plastic eggs, but let's start with the incarcerated.
Yeah, I'm all about it. Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
No, I remember that conversation. It was just a few of us in a circle, and you just started like talking about what was lighting you up about this juvenile outreach, and I never thought, like, because we have Fresh Life in a prison,
yeah,
but I never thought about kids. And I was just like, my mind was blown, and just getting to hear your heart and your excitement, and like the fact that you just said you could run around this tiny little room and just tell us about it. Like that is so exciting to me. Yeah. Just of what your heart is.
Let's
for
say
young
a college group pastor is listening, or someone's a church pastor listening, and they're like, well, what would be some steps you would encourage me to take to get into a county jail, to get into a detention center? What would be your, like, hey, here's a couple things to think about, best practices?
Well, it'd be getting with someone who knows, your police officers know where those are, your probation officers know where those are, your social worker knows about them. So there's probably somebody in your church that already is working with those residents, and so it's having a conversation, and then it's easy as going to meet with someone. How can we serve? Don't put nothing on paper, blank sheet. I think sometimes we come with, okay, we want to do
what I want to do for you.
Here's what we offer.
Yeah.
No. We need you to paint this building.
We can paint.
Yeah.
We need you to clean up and get that stump out of our area where the kids, play. Okay. We went somewhere the other day, and their weight room and their basketball court, it was nothing. They had backboards. Wow. There were no rims. I was like, wow, I think we could probably supply rims.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of money, but we could probably come together with that. And so I think it's doing those things. And then how can we support? Could we come and lead a small group? Could we come alongside of what you're doing?
Yeah, I
and
love
offer
that.
support? And the other thing I've learned is a lot of time during event moments, and I learned a lot of this from Elevation Outreach. They do a great job of highlighting event like Christmas, Thanksgiving, Mother's Day, back to school. When are the moments that we could come alongside, and an Easter service? Well, it's like, hey, you can't do something every week, but we would provide an Easter moment, or we'd let you come in at Thanksgiving and do something at Christmas. One of the facilities that we're in right now is we started with doing a Christmas moment, and brought this is a tough place in Birmingham. It breaks my heart every time I go. It's a tough situation.
Yeah.
Young kids been traumatized, and they don't know anything but pain and violence.
Wow.
And they have their own challenges, and so you're there, 9-year-olds, 11-year-olds.
That's tough.
And you're in there trying to, but come alongside of them, giving them that gift, and then being able to present the Christmas story, tell them about Jesus. It's just wonderful. It's normally not there for a long time, but it don't take a long time.
Yeah.
Love can get to our heart pretty quick.
Come on. I love that.
And they're never going to forget how you made them feel.
Yeah.
I mean, that's strong. Well, I love that. And when I think of you, I think high capacity, like Jennie said, your relational Rolodex capacity internally in a non-obligatory way, but like, in the half an hour we've been together, you've mentioned 17, 18 people, and it's like not just a little bit about them, but like it's like, think what's going on, you care. Like there is that within you. I'm sure part of that is your makeup, and part of that you probably have had to work at that too, I would imagine, right?
Yeah. Well, again, I'm fortunate to have good friends, and I work for some good people who allow me to do that, which is kind of of course what I get to do at ARC, and then of course Church of the Highlands, Pastor Mark, Pastor Chris. Sure, that's one of the things that you do, and then I think my makeup is relational. I enjoy relationships. I enjoy people.
Do Do you have introverted moments at all, or are you pure extrovert all time?
When I sleep, I'm a good sleeper. I love sleep.
Yeah,
You know, I used to not like sleep, but I discovered sleep about 12 years ago when I went through a tough time.
Congratulations.
That's hilarious that you just said that.
And it has changed my life.
No, I could talk the rest of this podcast about our love for sleep. I think the older you get, the more you're like, what in the world? This is the greatest thing that there is.
Yes.
No, I got real unhealthy because of bad sleep patterns.
Okay.
Along with another list of things. But so I do have those moments, but I think you have to be intentional. I have a lot of reminders in my phone.
Yeah.
Thank God for guys like Mark Cleary, who you know, Matt Laborde, who you know, work at ARC. Yeah. We work real hard in trying to remember dates that are important. I mean, if you open up a new building, that's important. Yeah. We want to make sure that's important because you guys give to ARC and you're in our world. And so you're trying to say, okay, what's important to that person?
So good.
So it needs to be important to us. Yeah. And so you just try to live that way. But I have hundreds of reminders in my phone. And then I have a list of people maybe that are going through tough times or have experienced tough times. So you're trying to, I went through a time in my life 12 years ago. I'll never forget, Craig Rochelle called me for 6 months in a pattern. And after 6 months, he said, "Are you good?" I said, "I think I'm good." He said, "Okay, call me when you need me." But he was intentional in making those phone calls.
Wow.
And it was like a cast for you. He was like, there for as long as the cast came off and there was a splint, right?
Rebuked, corrected, encouraged. Yeah. And you just got to have people in your life like that. So you're trying, to earn the love, care, correction, truth that you've received. Yeah. You just kind of want to earn it. It's the, what is it? It's the Band of Brothers. Yeah, wow. That last clip where the guy's standing over the tomb and he's saying, "Hey man, I hope I did what, tell me I lived a good life." Remember he tells his wife that? Yeah. That scene in that movie will break you down.
Mess you up.
And I think about that a whole lot. I'm 60, so you're like, okay, the sun is starting to come on this side of the set. So you're trying to, how do I want to end?
Right.
And I want it to end and hopefully loving people.
Well, your makeup, your spirit, all the things I can't think of a better person to be at the helm of one of the largest church planting organizations, surely in the world. Yeah. I mean, what you're doing at ARC, not everyone listening is super familiar, but ARC, I think, is the premier church planning. I mean, there's other people doing great things at NAMB and, CMN and all the things, but what's happening at ARC is unique. It's special. Yeah. It's, we've had a chance to watch close friends go through the process. You guys really do help guide a couple with a dream in their heart and a call in their life into the process of planning a church in such a not a factory assembly line way. It's bespoke suiting, really, but it's fantastic. The vetting process, the training process, for anyone listening who feels the call of God in their life. I mean, I can't commend ARC enough for what you guys do, and you being at the helm of it. So it's incredible. Yeah.
Well, it's fun. And you laugh a lot, and there's sometimes you cry, because you're just working with people. And I thank God for you guys. You guys have always been generous. Your church has, to help start other churches. Which I think if you're a church planter, you got to live your life helping other people plant.
Oh my gosh!
Yes.
I just think that makes sense.
Partially pay it forward, partially because it keeps you from becoming stagnant too. Right?
Yeah. We didn't have ARC when we started.
That's part of the other thing.
And I think that's part of
part of it's our jealousy.
We had this.
That we wish how much we would have been spared had we not gone through the hard way. Literally, I found out about ARC. I mean, 2-3. What year did it begin?
We started in 2001. We had the thought in 2000, planted our first churches in 2001, which was Highlands, Pastor Chris, New Life, Rick Bezet.
And ARC is Association of Related Churches, right? Okay, so this gets started. What was the heartbeat? Like, let's just help other people plant?
Yeah, well, it's interesting is, we don't have church planting in our name because it was relationships. Yeah. And it was some guys getting together. Our founder, Billy Hornsby, he's with the Lord. His brother, Scott Hornsby, who just passed away, and myself. and Greg Surratt, which we all love Greg Surratt. I mean, what a great church, Seacoast, now pastored by his son, Josh and Lisa. They're fabulous. And we just got together, and Delyn and I planted a church in Christmas of 1992.
Okay.
Which, that was when you took, you came over in a wagon, and you had a soapbox and a wood microphone. I mean, that's kind of how that worked back. I mean, that was so long
church
ago.
Planting in 92, a different day.
Yeah,
Totally.
we only knew a few.
What tools were you given? You know what I mean? To plant the church.
Go preach up a church.
Okay,
that was my advice. Thank God for John Osteen. He had, I went over there and did some things. Delyn led worship one morning, and I got up and said something to that fabulous church who, continues to be that under Pastor Joel and Victoria.
We've heard of it, right?
Yeah,
They're struggling.
Yeah, that little work.
Yeah.
It's a little work.
I know with some hard work, they could eventually get some prominence. It could work. Their own Sirius XM channel, you
you have your own radio channel.
NBA arena? Is that normal? Is this what you have? Yeah. Okay.
Clyde the Dry. Glide and Akeem. I mean,
it's fine.
You're preaching where Akeem was at. But
no big deal.
We were struggling. We wanted to do something, and we were traveling. We were going to go work for the Osteens, and he pulled us aside and said, "You're not supposed to come here." He said, "You need to go to Baton Rouge and plant a church." I'll never forget what he said to Delyn. He said, "You need to launch a church to reach the poor." He said, "That's on your life."
Wow.
And he said, "Don't go to the north area because Bethany is there, and that's a great church. The Stockstills, a great church." He said, "Go down south." John Osteen knew Baton Rouge. He said, "Go on that New Orleans side." And that was in our heart. And so he wrote us a $400 check that morning, said, "Go plant that church." And so that was our first gift. And we came back, partnered up with a Church of God guy, Keith Gunner, and he gave us let us use a facility. And so we launched it on Wednesday night, which is a terrible, fantastic idea.
Yeah.
And with 12 people, my wife and I.
Okay.
And then
12 was including you too?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
You always include.
You always include.
You count everybody.
Every
the
single
car
person.
slowed down.
We were 14.
Then,
So
okay, then we're that's why we love each other.
Yeah,
and then we did that for a couple of weeks and said Wednesday nights is not working, so we relaunched.
Yeah.
Not like relaunching your church 8 weeks later on a Sunday. So we always had it in our heart to help church planners, so we started doing that with a Rob Ketterling, a John Siebling, a Joe Champion.
Wow. All guys still in it? Got churches that have built great churches?
Yeah. All our friends. And then out of that, we had this conversation, said, what it would look like if we put our resources together and created a resource fund to help start, and we do it relationally. So those first 2 churches launched. So that was, we'll celebrate 25 years next year. We'll go back to Seacoast at our conference, kind of where
that's special.
A lot of those original moments happened. And we've launched up to this date, 1,160 churches have been started.
1,160 churches around the world. I mean, I spoke at ARC Ireland. I mean, there's ARC Church Planting.
Canada. I
spoke at ARC Canada.
Yeah. Sure did.
There's ARC conferences all around the world. There's ARC churches around the world. How many countries have ARC churches planted in?
Oh, goodness. It's about a dozen now.
Okay.
A dozen different countries. And, we go slow around the world.
Sure.
We're not in a rush.
But it's happening.
Yeah, we're not in a race or a rush.
Yeah.
Well, and you don't say yes to every couple.
No.
You don't get behind every church.
Yeah, because it takes a lot of time and a lot of money.
Yeah,
and the lay hands on people suddenly thing. You're going to say, "Hey, there's some red flags here," right? Like I've known people who have, "Hey, this is not the right call," And so I think that's really important. That it's not huge. You guys aren't like trying to open McDonald's. We're going to get one in every corner, And
we've learned that a lot.
I would imagine.
Like the launch training, we've added so much to it the last 5 years because of some of those. And so we're trying to do our best in making sure that whether it's the couple, who have they been mentored by, who's been their model, their money, their marriage, their marriage.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we're pouring a lot more into it. And just trying to do our best. We're not a denomination. We don't want to be your mom and dad.
That's a great
It's an independent church.
Yeah.
You have your own oversight, your own spiritual covering. We launch you, and then from there, we're trying to create a menu where they could be connected to you, or they could be connected to a Dave Patterson. They could be connected to other things that are out there.
Right.
And So you're trying your best to make sure that they're in family, they're in accountability, and they're walking with integrity. We do our best as an organization,
which is a really cool distinction, as distinct from a denomination that has a church planting arm. You're just facilitating and helping serve as a launch pad, helping with the rocket fuel, giving templates. And then also, I know every year you have these ARC conferences where existing churches can come in and learn some of the playbook of things that you're saying, hey, this has worked. These are proven concepts. Feel free to learn. I mean, we're like you did it the hard way. You know, we started in 2007. So ARC was going, we just didn't know about it. Yeah. So literally it was just back in the day, it was just go start a Bible study, see what happens. You know, start a Bible study, see what happens. All of our mentors.
We didn't really know anything about Montana. Like we didn't really know where it was before we
No launch meetings, no interest meetings. Got here, started this first Bible study the next week. You know what I mean? It was like, and praise God, you know, his hand was on it and in it. And some of the things we learned the hard way are great, but I remember the first time we started to get around ARC and get around you guys and get around those, like, this makes a lot of sense. You know, we're like,
really
yes,
nice.
We shall write. Like I'm there speaking, but like writing down everything I'm learning. You know what I mean? Like what in the heck? So it's just incredible what you've been able to like formalize, take some of this wisdom and bring it together and just give it away.
Oh my
it's
gosh,
incredible.
So generous.
And a lot of that came out of a lot of it came out from those early churches. I mean, Pastor Chris has been key, Rick Bezat, Randy, key in developing these values of you better start with prayer. You better build a team. I mean, if you don't win it on your knees, you're not going to win it up on that platform.
Yeah.
Yes.
Build a team. You better understand finances, integrity, accountability. You better have good government where there is shared responsibility and there is an understanding of how we do things. You know, so all those things. But you know what's happening now? A lot of churches are sending their campus pastors.
Right.
Because I think since COVID, even more, you know, the brand sometimes is not the builder. You better be able to get in that community and grind it out. So a lot of churches are sending their campus pastor to learn what a planter needs, which is some entrepreneurial kind of 0 to 1. You know, we're not going to give you everything prepackaged.
Yeah.
You better figure out how to grow your own a little bit and take something, make something out of nothing. Yeah. And I like that right now. So that's happening.
In many cases can be a liability, almost. Almost this like corporate, you know, people don't think they want that. You know, they don't think they want I want to be a part of like Walmart or whatever it is, right? So Dino, I'm curious about this. They always used to talk to us about most church plants fail within 2 years. Most churches never get over 100. Yeah. I'm curious how ARC churches over the years, the 1,160, have differed from those statistics. What sort of success rates and versus failure have you had of getting people past the 2-year mark, or any kind of statistics on that?
Well, you're trying to gauge in that we kind of look at that 3 to 5 years. You know, sometimes it takes 2 years just to get known, just to know people, gather. But our model is launch large. So we're doing everything we can to get you in a city about a year out, to resource you well, to help you learn well, so that you can launch large. We make no apology about a launch large model. That's what we do.
So good.
Other organizations do some things differently. That's kind of been a distinctive, because we want to get you as many people possible, as much impact as possible to start, because you're going to go through a dip.
So you're
going to go through some of those moments.
50% second Sunday from first usually?
It's about the same. Okay. I mean, it fluctuates based on, are you in an urban setting? Are you in a rural setting? Are you in a growth city? Are you in a dying city? You know, some of those things. Or, hey, what is your ministry experience? We're seeing guys that have maybe been campus pastors or have got some good ministry experience that are launching a little older, 36, 38, 40, 42. Sometimes they, you know, just because of time and learn, you know, they can kind of turn out a little bit better. But, you know, you're trying to get in that launch of, I think the average launch this semester, what we call it 2 semesters, we launch in the spring and the fall, has been 380, 390. I think in the fall we had one that was high, that was over 500, all of the average launches together. So that dip is not that bad. And you can ride through those seasons where they're a little bit harder to do church based on where you're at. So you're trying to get there, but
so
our success rate has always been...
You're talking about critical mass, just that kind of feeling of momentum, a little feeling of walking into an exciting environment. So if you hit 500 next week, 250, that still feels good.
Yeah.
You know,
and you could do church.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to do. I mean, you could do church at any level. I mean, we know that. That's all over the
11
world.
and 14. We've
Exactly.
been there.
12.
Yeah.
12.
12. Well, what was week 2 for you?
7.
Okay, yeah. So that we were, I think, like 15 the next week, which was interesting to see a little bit of growth.
That's
we
huge
were
growth.
high-fiving.
I
We were
know, it's
high-fiving
huge.
each other. Yeah. But the midweek service was like 7. You know what I mean? We started out with Sunday and Wednesday.
That's a Bible study.
Yeah.
Yes.
And studying all week, that was the most discouraging for us because we were committed to midweek studies, which we did for years and years.
Yeah.
That's what we
And
grew
that
up
was a
with.
lot more slow growing. And there were weeks where I would put hours and hours into that Bible study. And then Wednesday night I'd be like, oh my gosh, I preached to 6 people. You know?
Yeah.
Well, but we've been blessed, and I'll tell you, there have been churches that didn't make it, and we were always trying to work with that dynamic. But it's like, after 5 years, it's about a 90% success rate.
Wow.
And I think COVID had something. There was some play in those numbers with COVID.
Absolutely.
I do want to ask about that, like post-COVID, pre-COVID. What kind of everything's still settling? I think still culturally, but what do you see where the dust is settling on differences versus similarities on any of it?
Well, if you made it through COVID, you made it. You did well. And so we're looking at this. Churches now are trying to get facilities quicker because a lot of times if you were leasing up a spot, if you were renting a spot, it got taken away from you. So most church planters are trying to find something quicker.
Let's get a building.
Yeah.
Let's get a building.
That makes sense.
Let's get somewhere where we
Let's
could
not
pay.
be beholden to a school district or a movie theater or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's some of that. I think everybody realizes you better create community quick, small groups, team. You better win in the foyer as well as winning on the platform.
Yeah.
I think everybody's getting better in the foyer, connecting with people, loving people, valuing people.
Yeah.
Concerned about those that are there. Everybody, a lot of people did outreaches during COVID and they didn't stop them. I love how some churches said, let's serve our community because we're not doing church. And then they came out of COVID and didn't stop doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is huge.
Back to the poor and back to the captive.
Yeah.
Yeah. We brought meals to widows. Well, that's probably a good idea all the time.
Yeah.
So I think that's been a super plus. Our campus pastors, I know at Highland, got very good at outreach during COVID. And so we've just created a mandate that says don't change that.
Yeah.
I mean, keep doing that. Keep reaching people. And so those are things you see happening. One of the things I'm most excited about is we're planning two things. We're planning churches with a lot of diversity, which I think is super huge right now. And then we're targeting undersaturated cities the best we can.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but we just launched, again, I know there's great churches.
What's an undersaturated city?
That's a city that just has some space for a new church.
Gotcha.
I think churches are needed everywhere, and I think every city matters. But we just launched a church in Hartford, Connecticut. I know there's great churches in Hartford, Connecticut,
Probably not as many as in Dallas.
but not as many in Dallas. This was a diverse couple, which was even more of an opportunity to be able to make that type of reach into that community.
Yeah.
And man, they launched, and I know you guys are going to love it because you invested in it. They launched with over 1,000 people on their first Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
That's joke.
Shocker.
Is that the biggest you've yet done?
It's the biggest launch in New England.
Wow.
Amazing couple. Hey, came from a good pastor, a good sending church.
Yeah.
A good plant needs a good sending church.
Okay.
Good.
And he has good friends.
Yeah.
And they went all in. They did what we all did back in the day: sell their home, liquidate their savings, get rid of their cars.
Yeah.
They went all in, which then made other people go in all in because it was an expense. I mean, it was an expensive launch. There's no other way to say it.
Yeah.
You don't launch a church at Hartford without spending some dollars.
What's the average budget raise for an ARC church plant?
Well, what's neat is I just saw some stats from the Stetzers, the One Birds, the Kerry Newhoffs. Everybody's kind of agreeing that you need to be in the 200 to 300 to even think about it.
What was your budget starting Healing Place?
We had $1,500.
Oh gosh,
yeah, $1,500.
We had about $30,000.
Yeah,
when we started
and then we got a check for $3,500 immediately.
Yeah. Okay,
so really, first 2 weeks we started with $5,000.
Yeah,
wow.
But $30,000.
I mean, we were like, we can live off of this for a year, maybe. We can. We saw a way through.
He thought he was going to need to be like a barista.
No, not barista. Goodness gracious, I would do a little more consulting.
No, but like, I know.
I was bivocational. I cut grass Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah,
I cut grass for a guy in our church.
Yeah,
because we were having a baby, and we had no baby furniture. So I cut grass. I laid sod. I washed cars. for the first year or two.
You were hustling. You were
worked full time,
grinding. Yeah.
And I mean, and I shout out to every bivocational pastor.
Yeah.
Shout out to the pastors out there that their wife is working full time.
Yeah.
And there's respect for all that.
Totally.
And I mean, total respect for those
Without a
situations.
doubt.
Absolutely.
And so, but
but if you can come through a process, if you can raise money, if you
That's what
can
we would
launch
rather.
big, if you're trying to take away the unnecessary pain points, and it's probably why some of those statistics are getting better at getting guys past that 2-year hump, getting people past that spot. How many ARC churches do you know didn't make it through COVID that had already been existing that are now?
Oh God! I mean, we've got some stats on it. I mean, I could think of some.
Yeah.
But I think there were 3 things that happened. Some closed down.
Yeah.
That's painful. Some merged. To God be the glory.
Yeah.
Praise God.
And then
yeah.
some became campuses.
Okay, sure.
So there was redemption even in the tough stuff.
Yeah.
They were repurposed. They didn't just go away in most
There you go.
cases. Yeah, interesting.
And a lot of them, they were repurposed. It's a good way to say it.
Interesting.
You always have great words. You have great words.
Yes.
Well, it's the
just
circle
good.
of life. It's the wildebeest eats the grass, and then the grass eats the wildebeest.
Hey,
right?
we're with the Luskos.
Yeah.
Hey, it's the Luskos.
Hey,
Hey.
it's the Luskos. No, I love that, and I also love you had 20 years being a senior pastor, before that youth ministry. So, I mean, I feel like you're the perfect person running ARC because of your insider experience on every level of church. You know what I mean? Like you get it. Like back in the day, NASA only let the person speaking to the astronauts when they were on a mission be an astronaut. You couldn't be some rando because you needed to know what they were going through. They didn't let the surgeons talk on the walkie-talkie.
There's a lot of randos out there.
Well, I just think you speak the language, you know what they're going through. You can translate everything. Like, hey, tell them this. It's like, I know what they're going through right now. I'm not telling them that. I'll tell them that later. You know what I mean? We're not telling them their wife just filed for divorce. They're on the spacewalk at this moment.
Yeah.
We're going to protect their mental space. And I feel like when I think about you, like you're the guy you want in your corner in a gunfight. And you've been through it at every level. You've had the success, the difficulties, the challenges, the restoration, the whole gamut, or we could dare say arc of the process of ministry.
Woo.
And so now for pastors to be having you in their walkie-talkie, that's
Seriously.
I mean, I'm on the receiving end of that, and it's a blessing. So
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's what makes you special. I mean, y'all have walked through it. I mean, you have a daughter in heaven.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know what it feels like to pain. I mean, deep, paralyzing, I can't leave my room pain.
Yeah.
So you know those
just
things.
This morning, but she talked me through it.
I mean, people have left your church that you love dearly.
Sure.
I used to say pastoring, ARC's the same way as pastoring. There's some days I left Healing Place and I thought, man, we did well today. We were a healing place. We crushed it. I'm a good leader.
Yeah.
There were other days I left there and thought somebody else should run this.
Totally.
Because we were not a healing place.
Yeah.
And we were a hurting place.
Yeah.
We didn't do well today.
Yeah.
I think that's what is the experience of life.
Absolutely.
In doing those things. And again, I've had those people in my life that have done the spacewalk and could be in my ear saying, hey, you need to change. You better straighten up. You better act differently. You better rediscover your love for God, your love for people, your love for your family. So thank God for people that have spoke truth into my life.
Yes.
And then so you're trying to do that as it relates to encourage. One of the things I love doing is I've become a big anniversary guy. When you get older, you start doing church anniversaries.
Yeah.
So I'm a good anniversary guy.
You'll remember an ARC planner's anniversary and
I go speak at them. I love them.
I love that.
I'm like on the anniversary circuit.
I love it.
And, and so I go to these 3-year anniversaries, 4-year, 7-year. I was at one recently. It was a 3-year anniversary up outside of Baltimore. And it was at a high school setup tear down. I think they had 900 people that Sunday after 3 years outside of Baltimore. And I learned something every time I go that I can take back and put live in the training.
Wow.
They did a after party for first time guests. That's the best after party I've ever seen.
What was it?
They just had a vibe. It was in a cool room. They had a little music, had good food, had good people in there connecting. So they do a mini party every Sunday for new members. They have multiple
what do
services.
They call it? Like
after party.
Okay, yeah.
After, I mean, and they talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's not like what I liked about it, and I think this is important, they don't jumble up their whole service where they don't leave a little moment to say, hey, here's what's happening today. We would love to connect with you today.
Yeah.
If you're new today, or maybe you just started visiting our church in the last month. I think a lot of people don't want to self-identify. And you talk about first-time guests.
Right.
I'm not a first-time guest. I've been here 8 weeks, but I'm not self-identified.
I haven't taken my next step yet, or
Yeah.
No,
whatever.
because I'm kicking the tires.
Right.
Are y'all legit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got my own stuff going on. So they created a good space for anybody who's still kicking the tires, where you didn't walk into a room and you're like the only one and there's 8 people looking at you.
Right.
It was just a good vibe.
Interesting.
Everybody's, what's up?
Love it.
And that's
So it's great.
distinct from like a growth track or like a church membership class.
Yeah, it's a foyer to that.
Gotcha.
It's an entry.
And would there be any talk given at that, or
We'll
just
talk at it.
just a little bit?
It was just, hey, this is who we are. Love to get to know you.
Yeah.
I've got a little table back here if you'd like to join a small group, if you'd like to be able to understand what it looks like to serve on a team.
Yeah.
We're just here. And they probably had 80 in that room.
Okay.
Mini party every week, once a month, larger party.
Gotcha.
And the culture there was conducive to that.
Yeah.
Love it.
And it was not a hurry up and get in church, hurry up and leave.
You will hear guys talk about how, well, growth track works in Alabama because there's a culture of come
Yeah.
to church every week, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. But what other things like this have you seen that maybe have been different approaches to the on-ramp to church membership, more involvement like that are effective and creative?
Well, I think even, Pastor Chris, who is the somewhat the author, but it goes back to Rick Warren. I mean, what he did with the basis. I mean, the idea, it even goes back beyond that. The idea
4 cups of wine. It goes back to the Passover.
Yeah, exactly. You're just trying to get people to get on some pathway
Yes.
Sure.
to be able to discover all that God has and the life that God intended.
Yes.
Sure.
So it can look a lot of different ways. It could color in different shades. You can connect the dots differently. But at the end of the day, you're trying to see someone, be a fully committed follower of Christ.
Yes.
And we're trying to serve that. And so you
So
see it
good.
differently. I remember, the thought was on the West Coast, you couldn't do it.
Sure.
And old Sean Nepstad, who's a friend of ours,
Yeah.
he went down there and he tinkered with that and created some on-ramps, some kind of like some fast forward moments on like a Saturday morning. You could come and get connected. It'd be like the growth track, condensed.
Compressed down to one little.
Compressed down to a 2-hour morning.
Sure.
So I think there's a lot of churches that are going to take it and morph it and to where they're at, with their demographics.
Sure.
And if you're in a rented space versus a permanent space versus a pop-up space,
Right.
you've got to try to figure that. It's got to be transformed.
Right.
But you better do something.
Yeah.
You better do something.
What else are you seeing just out there that's like noteworthy to you? Like the mini party, thing that the guys are doing that you're like, I haven't seen that before. That's an interesting take on it. Or just anything unique that's caught your attention lately.
I think some cool partnerships. A lot of people are doing partnerships through outreach, really getting into what's going on in our city, understanding, I always call it kind of cracking the code.
Sure.
What's really happening in this, what's happening in Whitefish versus what's happening in Kalispell, versus what's happening in Bozeman versus what's happening in Jackson Hole, down in Salt Lake, whatever. You're trying to, let's really figure out what is going on here with humanity.
Yeah, it's good.
With people that are hurting, people that are struggling, and how do we figure that out? So I think a lot of people are contextualizing to their community, and I applaud every single effort like that. Some of them work, some of them don't work.
Sure.
But I believe sometimes you find your best outreach among those that didn't work.
Right.
So I've done 1,000 outreaches. Some of them did not work, but a few of them did.
Yeah.
And it reached some people.
Yeah.
And not
And it
being
made
afraid
connections.
to fail.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I've bombed some outreaches. I have bombed some.
Yeah.
And then I think one of the other things is a lot of people are just winning, which it should have always been. They're just winning in the foyer. Man, it's getting out there just seeing what's up.
Yeah.
Just loving people.
Yeah.
That
That ministry of presence, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the small. We win in the small.
Yeah.
We've gotten good at the big. In which I think there was a day that we weren't that good at the big. I remember when I was growing up, I'd go to church. It was dreadful.
Sure.
I mean, every little bit I went, it was rough.
Yeah.
And so I think church has gotten better. And to God be the glory for better services, transitions, and better singers, and a better talk. You know, a presence of God. Let's linger. Let's lean in. Let's wait on God. Let's not be so rushed.
Being creative.
Yeah.
All of those things.
All those things. But then also that extending out to, hey, you know, I was at a church that day and I loved how they put all of their connection points. They have weather that's conducive outside. They push it to the patio.
Sure.
And it's called the patio.
Why do you say everything so well? I push it to the patio.
Because I'm with the Luskos. Yeah. Rubs off on you. To the man who just preached a message that dead men fold no clothes. Is that what it was?
Yeah,
it was one of the greatest titles I've ever read. I saw that title and I retired from preaching. After I saw your title, I retired. Recently, I announced my retirement.
My God.
Well, that's it. Dino, with regard to the sleep hacks, I want to go back to that. You talked about that a minute ago. What has helped you sleep better? Like, I mean, are you taking supplements, better mattress? Like, what are your guides to Dino Rizzo? Get good sleep.
Well, I realized how important it was.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I had lived under this idea of less sleep, I would be more productive. And I came up under that, you know, die for the cause of Christ. Let's just kill ourselves for all of it.
Yeah.
And I understand the heart behind that.
Sure.
And if you cut me, I'm probably a missionary.
Yeah. You're an evangelist.
I want to reach people.
Yeah.
But but it's not good if you do that unhealthy.
Sure.
And you don't do it long, or you don't do it right, or you hurt yourself when you hurt people.
You're talking about like a cocktail for a nervous breakdown too, right?
Exactly.
I mean, guaranteed.
Yeah, guaranteed. 100. No one's beat it yet. 100 out of 100.
Wow.
No one beats unhealthy living.
Yep.
And so I think the other thing too, I think when you don't have sleep, you become irrational.
Yep.
And you have irrational thoughts.
Absolutely. Yep.
And you don't think clearly. And when you don't think clearly, you make bad decisions.
Yep.
And bad decisions will hurt a lot. And so I value it now. It's a priority. Sometimes I want to stay up and maybe study, or want to stay up and do something. And I'll put it to bed.
Yeah.
And I'll say, you know what, I'll get up earlier, or you know what, Lord, you're going to help me.
Yes.
I love, again, back to John Osteen. He talked a lot about preaching out of the overflow, preaching out of the top of the barrel. And I think there were too many days I lived off the bottom of the barrel.
And you're just like, I need something in the bottom here. Yeah, right.
And so fill up the barrel.
Yeah.
With devotion. So devotion to me is my everything now.
Yeah.
It used to be study. Now it's devotion at 60.
Interesting.
Personal devotion, devotionals, and just prayer time with Jesus.
Yeah.
And try to preach out of that.
Yeah, I love it.
But I want more like specific though. Like what helps sleep well? Like what are your like hacks? Like I'm talking about like, do you have a certain kind of sheet you like?
Try not to be on my phone.
Okay.
Try not to cut the TV off. Work hard during the day when I lay down. Good pillows.
Yeah.
Control my thoughts.
Sure.
I try to have sleep thoughts. And then my wife and I started having like a noise.
Okay, so a sound machine. Okay, so this is what I'm asking. What's the sound you like?
It's kind of a white noise. It's kind of old school white noise that my wife likes. And we our dog used to be in the other room, and you would hear it. We moved it into our room. You don't hear it now.
I gotcha.
So we shut our door. We used to keep our door open. We shut our door.
Black
Little
light
things
curtains?
like that.
Do you have
Black light curtains.
Yeah.
We did that.
Do you wear a sleep mask?
I don't wear a sleep mask, but and then, you know, I just have gotten on a healthy rhythm of sleep.
It's good.
Try to be in bed at a certain hour.
So
there is the pattern. There's some
They
patterns.
call that sleep hygiene.
Is that what it is?
That's what they call it, sleep hygiene. Some of those little disciplines, like going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time. I found a big thing for me was I have to cut off my food early in the day. If I'm digesting, if I have an 8 o'clock meal, I can't go to sleep at 10 o'clock. My stomach's still working at it.
Yeah.
And it seems like all the blood's rushing to your digestive system that needs to be relaxing. And so your body's working instead of shutting down. Does that, have you messed with that at all?
I can't like eat red meat at night.
100%.
It'll get me, or heavy fried food. And you travel, we all travel.
Oh, gosh.
So the traveling thing can
That's
get you.
hard.
But
That's hard.
and what I used to not do is I
Green
did
room
not.
food after a talk, and then you're trying to lie down. And
I would not bring those sleep hygienes to the hotel.
yeah.
But I try to do a better job
Yeah.
when I'm traveling to try to keep some of that going on. and go ahead, get in bed, cut everything off,
Yeah.
and go to sleep.
Well, and even like the coming down off of the rush of preaching, which is a rush, you're up,
Yeah.
and then knowing like, okay, I got a 6 a.m. flight. It's just so hard to get your body to not freak out every 2 hours thinking, did I miss my flight? You know what I mean? Like
You're
that's
so
just,
right.
that's tough.
So real.
I'll tell you the other thing helped me is I don't think about my preaching once I'm done preaching.
Okay.
So years ago, I stopped that. I would
Beating yourself
overbake,
up.
overcook,
Yeah.
wonder, seek
Yes.
affirmation,
Sure.
seek some approval, continue to have conversations about it too long, which was my own insecurity.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I step off the stage, or it's pretty much done, I gave it my best. It's God's deal.
Yeah.
If I need to tweak it, if it needs to be better, but I'm ready to find out about, hey, what do we do? Hey, let's go eat. Let's go hang out. What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are the kids doing? I used to carry that residue into my time with my
Wow.
family.
Wow.
And
Residue's a good word.
That's a really good word.
Residue.
and I carry that
Wow.
into the lunch, into the afternoon. And so I'm still dealing with it on my phone, or I'm still making phone calls. So I don't get it right all the time. When I step out of that church, it is God's. I put
Interesting.
it in the safety deposit box
Wow.
of the
Love
Lord.
that.
And I'm ready to go. Hey, Duke's on today. Hey man, let's go eat. What are we doing tonight?
Yeah.
Let's go have some fun.
Yeah.
I think when you keep recooking it,
Yeah.
I think it can really become about you.
Wow.
And
So
it just
wise.
and that can mess you up
Oh, wow.
when you communicate as much as a lot of people do.
Yeah.
You never get out of it.
Yeah.
Then you get in your head,
Yes.
mess up your heart. So that
That's
was
so good.
That's a good word.
it's helped me now that I'm older. But
What helps you do that though? Like because I'm asking for a friend who says he has a struggle doing that and not thinking, replaying it. How has there been any practical thing? Because just to decide that is one thing, but like to practice that, is there any reminders or things that have helped
when
you
I
to get
step
there?
off stage, I'm asking a different question.
Okay.
If somebody's helped me off stage,
Yep.
hey, how's your wife? Is your wife here today?
Yeah.
Or did your kids come to church?
Yeah.
Hey, what are we doing this afternoon? Man, I love the artwork you have here. I take my mind off of it.
Interesting.
And because if not, I'm baking it. And I don't think it was meant to be that way. I think the manna gets done for the day.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And you have new manna tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
So I don't think you're meant to live in that manna of, what I did or what I baked or what I presented. I think it messes you up eventually.
Yeah. Wow.
And again,
the
it can get better.
the performance side of it.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it can get better. But I think if you think too much, it's God's stuff.
Yeah.
So you give it away, you do your best. Now leading up to it, we're binging.
Oh yeah.
We're all on it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you did Good Friday, I'll list your message. You were in that headspace for a while, getting into that moment.
Yeah.
But I had something happen to me one Father's Day. We got done with the Father's Day. I guess my son, I have 3 children, McCall, Isabella, Dylan. Dylan, all
You're
of
a great father. You're a great family.
my
Richard.
son-in-law Trey's here. I have a daughter-in-law, Lane. We got 2 grandkids, and I've got an amazing wife who helps me a lot.
I wish she was here.
Oh
Yeah.
man, she
Next time.
she helps me a lot after I get done preaching. About the only affirmation I now look for. I mean, I love when Pastor Chris says, "Man, good message," or the pastor says, "That helped us build the church."
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Those are super important because you want to be that aware.
Yeah.
But really, I'm looking for my wife to pat me on the knee and say, "You did good today." That helps somebody.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
So good.
But I got out of church one year when I was pastoring a healing place, and it was one of those Sundays, man, big Father's Day. We brought in boats and 4-wheelers and giving out shotguns and grills. But the attendance was
As Louisiana of a
amazing.
sentence as it gets.
yeah. But look, the attendance wasn't great.
Yeah.
And I got so upset after service. I got in the car, man, I rode around. We didn't have enough boats. We should have hung the 4-wheeler from the ceiling. Should have gave out more grills. And I got in the car.
Nobody cares.
Man, nobody's working hard.
Yeah.
Just didn't have enough boats on stage with me for my illustration.
Yeah.
Wrong boat.
Wrong boat. Could have been a tracker. I mean,
it's terrible. And I get in the car and I call one of the guys and I'm just, where were the 4-wheelers? And, where was this? And I'm just, we're driving to eat. Father's Day lunch. And Dylan out of the back seat, when I hang up the phone, everybody's quiet. Because dad's just been,
Dad's ticked, yeah.
Dad's just, and my son says, hey, Dad, how many did you have in church today? I think that Sunday we had over 6,000. I said, 6,000. He said, what did you start with? 12. He said, when will enough be enough? Don't ruin our Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
At that
Out of
point,
the mouths of babes.
I resigned as pastor. I'm going to hell.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not worth a dime.
No, the worst dad ever.
And that
on
was
Father's
when
Day.
on Father's Day.
Yeah, thank you.
And that was when I realized I am selfish.
Yeah,
I am being selfish to them. And so conviction
sure.
will sometimes change you.
Wow,
Yeah.
yes.
And again, evaluate on Monday, sit down on Tuesday. Hey, that transition, man, we didn't handle that 4-year like we should have. I missed a point. But I think that was where it began.
Yeah.
Levi, is on no more Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that
That's
anymore.
good.
That's really
You know,
good.
because I think there's a tension to all of this because we do want to be good stewards and we do want to do a good job preaching and we do want to improve and grow and learn, not just, well, who cares? I'm just, but at the same time, I think what the tension is, we don't want to become monsters by allowing the riding or falling of the thing to be how we see ourselves and it's idolatry, really. Ministry so easily becomes idolatry in the way that we get conflated in our importance. If it's a good Sunday, we now are okay. And if it's a bad Sunday, we don't deserve anything. We clearly have made ourselves more of the object than Jesus and people, right? And that's tough. That's easy to go, well, I'll never do that again. It's like,
very.
But then next week it tends to pop. You have to keep crucifying all of that stuff.
And it's never ending.
Yeah, right.
Dealing with yourself.
Whew.
Dealing with yourself.
Ooh.
Okay, family culture, you obviously just gave us a little glimpse into some of the things that you work hard to keep the family culture alive, but your kids are close, your grandkids, like you guys are a close family. What are some of the unique little fun things about the Rizzo family that just is beautiful that you would say is a part of that success?
Well, thank God for a great wife. My wife has been is the rock. The best Christian I know is my wife. And you guys do it well. I mean, I see the things you do as a family, and there are other friends of ours who cherish those things. But and I've not always done it well. I wish I could say I've always been a good dad. I haven't. I wish I could say I've always been a doubting father. I have not. I've learned from a lot of mistakes. There's been days I was not a good dad. There's been days I was not a good husband.
Same.
And I failed in that area, which is the most important. And so you learn from the sting of some of that. You adjust, you change, and I've got a couple good friends who ask me the hard questions and challenge me in that area. John Siebling is a dear friend, Pastor Chris. People in my life, Steve Robinson, who's a friend of ours, people like that who we talk a lot about it.
But what are you proud of? What have you done right that you're like, this has been a big part of our,
I think I've learned, I learned generosity from my dad, so I try to be generous. I try to think about my wife's love language, which is time spent in acts of service and words of affirmation. So I try my best to think about those things. Each of our children have a different love language. Back in the day, love language was an important. So we you're trying to dial into those things. But I text my kids every morning. That tries to be a habit of those kind of moments. I've always known what Dylan likes in the little things. So you try to think about those little things, the little gift, the little moment. The little notes, some of those things. We do decent family vacations. So it's getting harder now with grandkids and everybody's getting married. But we've always tried to have a good vacation, a good time away, in those moments.
Where do you love to go?
It's the beach or just being together.
Sure.
Anyway, and then when we traveled, I'm sure like you do, you would take one kid could go with you, and birthdays are important. We normally do family meals around birthdays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, all those kind of event moments have always been important to us. My wife's family is a big cooking family. We do a lot of cooking, and she's a great cook. So usually this past, I think the last was Easter. So we had a big meal around our table, sat there and laughed and cut up and just laughed about everything. We love to laugh.
Yeah.
So we'll laugh, tell stories. Usually it's stories about us.
Yeah.
You rehash and you relive the history of your family.
Oh, I love that.
We do a lot of that. My daughters are close, and so they do some trips together, which has been important. My
Do they all live nearby?
We all
your
live in the
kids?
Birmingham area,
Yeah.
so it's been big. Now that my son's not in New York, he's there, married. They've got a grandchild. We're in the grandkid season of our life.
Oh my gosh!
So we're trying to serve our kids now. I think you move into the place where you want to serve them.
Yeah.
Be there for them.
To me, I mean, honestly, like the Blessed Are the Spiraling message and kind of whole thing about a lot of that book's about like knowing how to progress from Luke Skywalker to Obi-Wan Kenobi to Yoda, right? The goal. And I feel like you're kind of like, you mentioned 60, where the sun's at in your life. Like, I feel like you have so gracefully, through the failures, through the learns, through the wins, through all the seasons of life, you're at that spot where you're Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yoda-ish, like you're in that territory and you're doing it so well. You're sharing wisdom and a wealth of wisdom, learned wisdom with a whole generation of guys coming behind you, gals coming behind you saying, hey, like I just see such a beautiful arc to your journey. That's where you're at, is such an inspiring goal to me to look at and go, okay, here's what you learned the hard way, looking back, and really, really, really powerful.
Well, thank God for grace. And,
yes.
My wife and my family has extended me grace. I mean, I went through a dark season about 12 years ago and made some bad decisions and did not keep myself healthy, and thank God for counselors.
Yes.
Thank God for some coaches in your life.
Absolutely.
The value of repentance, of restoration, of restitution, of reconciliation, all those good words that we've got to go through in our life.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful for people that provided me space and clarity to do that in my own life. And I through counseling and spending some time with some, you just spend time with yourself when you reflect and like, wow, that was a bad decision. I was not healthy. And I never forget when it dawned on me, when you take your eyes off of God and you take your eyes off of your family and you put your eyes on yourself, you will make bad decisions. Yeah. Every
that's a word for everyone listening.
time.
Yes.
Yeah. Male, female, young, old, novice, professional.
And not one of us are immune from that possibility.
Yeah.
Not one of us. Yeah.
Yeah. And it comes in all shapes and colors. It comes in all ways. Addiction and pain and trauma and the outgrowth of something that's bad, that's growing in your heart, whether you feel rejected or abandoned or isolated or anger.
Yeah.
Anger,
resentment, right?
Yeah, all those
huge.
things can come out in a lot of different ways, and so thank God for repentance.
Yes,
that you can repent. I think it's a great word.
Yeah,
I've learned the last
repentance.
Couple decades, best word. One of the best words Jesus ever said was repent.
I think it was his first sermon, wasn't it?
You would know.
Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. I think it was the first thing he said.
Wow. Oh man, it is a joyous word.
Yeah.
And then we give people space to repent and to work through that. I think the church should give people space to repent.
Absolutely.
And I think we forget the need to repent, not as a one-time thing at salvation, but as a day-to-day course correction, right?
Yeah. So I went through that. And so you're grateful. So you want to give back to those that are walking through things in their life and to try to be more patient, to try to be a little more understanding, to not be so quick to assume something that you don't know.
Yes.
Or to jump to something that you try to, okay, let me listen.
Yeah,
let me listen a little bit here. You're trying to be a better, you want to, I was speaking at some deal, when you're old now, you get on panels. You're on a lot of panels because they need somebody old on a panel. And so, I'm on a panel with all these young guys, and the person asking me a question, I think he was like 14 years old running this conference. He looked like a baby.
14 years old.
He was like a baby,
It's a baby.
Yeah. And
literal baby.
Yeah. And they said something. I said, he said, what do you feel like the next, you're at the other side of, I'm not halftime. I'm like fourth quarter. You're in that fourth quarter. I said, I want to die kinder, more generous.
So good.
And a greater listener.
Yeah, wow.
Good.
I think I want to end with those three songs playing. You know, and because everybody has seen people that get older and they get meaner.
Sure.
I can't figure that out for
Nasty.
the life of me.
Yeah.
What is up with mean people?
Yeah.
Mean
That is
old
crazy.
Crotchety.
Or people that have been in the church
Those
and
are just mean
like,
young people that got set in their ways, right? I mean,
it's like, how is it that you know the Bible and you're a theologian and you're meaner?
yeah.
Why does more
Honestly.
theology make you meaner?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem good.
That makes no sense to me.
No.
Or generous.
Yeah.
You don't give anybody a break.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's getting any love. No one's getting any care. And then, the idea of trying to listen and be like, oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Mm.
Okay, I didn't. Okay, now I understand why you made that decision,
Yeah.
or why you feel that way,
So good.
or why you're trying to figure out, or why you're in that addiction,
Yeah.
or why you're struggling with sobriety.
Yeah.
I have a whole lot more grace with that journey than I ever have than I've ever had because of your own journey you go through.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Dino, you've lived it well. We love you. We're grateful for you. Thanks for sharing all the things today. I love the wide range of things we've talked about, and we're just grateful to know you. So,
Yes. Thank you.
We love the Luskos.
yeah. Well, we feel the same way. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to swing by LeviLusko.com and JennieLusko.com to see what's going on in our world.
And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. And in the meantime, we would love to connect with you on social media.
Jennie and Levi Lusko out.
Access more